Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of Sights on Sinnoh, the Diamond and Pearl anime podcast. My name is Will, and today I'm joined again by Brady. How's it going?
Hey, doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. These two episodes I found like an kind of interesting follow-up to the whole gym battle arc, and I was wondering if you got a chance to watch those also.
Yeah, I've watched all of them up until this point so far.
Cool, okay. I was surprised that these came right after that, given the tone and kind of plot of those two. It's a very interesting turn for the show, in my opinion.
The gym battles or the episodes we're covering today?
The ones today, which are episodes 19 and 20 of the Diamond and Pearl anime. The first one titled Twice Smitten, Once Shy. And the blurb for that reads, when Dawn comes across a wild Pachirisu, it's so cute that she just has to catch it. Catching it turns out to be the easy part, because Dawn's new Pachirisu turns out to be so hyperactive that it wears everyone out before she can even start to train it. Is Pachirisu really too much for Dawn to handle? Before long, Dawn is convinced that she's not up to the job and releases it back into the wild. And you never played the Sinnoh games, so I'm wondering what was your first thoughts on the introduction of Pachirisu?
So I've seen Pachirisu previously. I don't know if it was in maybe one of the other games like X and Y, Sun and Moon. It might be in those. I don't think it's in Sword and Shield off the top of my head. But I do remember seeing it and thinking it's a very cute Pokemon. So I was excited when I saw that Dawn was going to catch this. But turns out it's not just cute, it's really energetic. I like that for its personality.
Yeah, it's all over the place, and it kind of leads the episode into a bit of a slapstick situation, at least for the first half, which is odd. Like I kind of liked it for being different than the other parts of the episode, or like the other tones of the episode. But at the same time, it seemed a little ridiculous at a certain point.
Yes. So I feel like I'm pretty critical about anime episodes and just in general, regardless of whether it's Pokemon or anything else. And episodes that kind of feel like they're fillery.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this episode did feel like filler with them just running around chasing the Pachirisu. But I think they did it in a way that it didn't feel like a chore to watch.
Yeah, it was still entertaining, and there was some through line through the whole thing that kept me a bit more engaged than if it were more of like a random, like, we're just gonna make a funny moment out of this Pachirisu joining the party.
It was very cartoony too. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
say that as a cartoon, but it was very cartoony where like all the Pokemon were chasing the Pachirisu and they all jumped in at the same time. And then it just kind of like stops in slow motions and Pachirisu runs away and they all collide head first together. I love that.
Yeah, I I remember watching that as a kid, and I was like, this doesn't seem efficient. And like the only part of the whole sequence where it's basically Dawn, Ash, and not Brock actually not participating in this, but Dawn and Ash sending out their Pokemon to go and chase the Pachirisu. I was like, this would I wanted to say this is played up for comedy, but then the music is really intense the whole time.
Yeah.
So to me, I was like, I think they're going for that, but the music choice kind of undermines it a little bit.
I noticed it a little bit, but it wasn't like one of the first things that popped out to me.
Okay. Yeah, that might be because it was like my second or third time watching that sequence at least, since I've seen it before. But just speaking of sequences, I feel like now that we've introduced the cold opens, they aren't my favorite. But this episode I think had a pretty decent one, at least in the way it was edited.
Yeah, I don't really like the cold opens. I feel like maybe there are certain episodes that it works well for, but for
Hmm.
doing it for like everyone, or at least it feels like it's been every single one since maybe the contests, seems overdone and almost forced.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one did an okay job at that, but again, like what purpose does it serve? I don't really think it was needed.
Yeah, I can never put my finger on the exact intent behind these cold opens because if it's just one scene, I'm like, all right, that's okay to kind of give an idea of like what to expect. But it's always three, like 2 to 3 moments from the episode, and they're compiled in a way that don't necessarily get me invested as much as confused.
Yeah, I think most of the episodes would just be a lot better without that.
Yeah, like you have the narrator that's worked for the last 9 seasons. I felt like that was a good way to kind of maybe bring people in if they haven't seen the last episode, rather than like put together these screenshots or like put together these moments from the episode that don't necessarily flow as an introduction to what's going to happen. But this did mark, I think, the first time that you've been on an episode of the podcast where we have someone new join the party. Is that right?
Trying to think.
Well, technically, you were here for when Starly joined the party.
Yeah, that's true. Ash did catch Starly.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that
It
actually.
it happened so fast that it
Hmm.
wasn't like a big monumental catch, I don't feel like.
Yeah, it was like the
Uh,
C plot in the
it was like, "Hey, I'm gonna catch this bird so I can help look for Pikachu from up
right.
above."
Yeah,
It's like,
there was
"Okay,
like
cool."
zero connection to this bird. It was just like, I need something to give me eyes in the sky.
Yeah.
So, what did you think about this one in comparison?
I thought Dawn did a pretty good job. I don't know why she went in with the Piplup first. Maybe she didn't fully realize
I
that Pachirisu is electric.
don't think she knew.
Yeah, I'm not sure because she didn't use the Pokédex from what we saw. We knew
Hmm.
that she was like crouched down around it for Broxid for a long time. So maybe she had already pulled out her Pokédex at that point, like off screen. What I did notice is the Pachirisu made the Piplup dizzy, and so she returned it. And
Yes.
then later on, she brought it back out, which removed its confusion. And I thought that that was really cool because that's how it works in the games.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because there's two elements of that that I really liked. Is one, it's an in-game mechanic that they're kind of adapting to the show by showing, oh, if you withdraw a Pokemon to its ball, confusion wears off. But also, I'm not sure if you saw this episode, when she was fighting Baniri for the first time, that's where she learned that confusion was a status because Baniri hit Piplup with Dizzy Punch. And
Yeah,
Brock and Ash explained, "Oh, put it back in its ball. Like, calm down, put it back in its ball, you'll be fine."
I didn't pick up on that second part, but I did pick up on whenever there's a confused Pokemon, a bunch of
Hmm.
Torchics run around their head. I
Yes.
don't know why they chose Torchic, but I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cute. I don't think they could have maybe done like Farfetch or something as like the duck, but I think Torchic's a cute choice. So yeah, it was a really cool payoff in terms of Dawn as a trainer being like, "Oh, I'll just put Piplup back in," and not freaking out like she did the first time, which is cool. It does put up a bit of a fight with with I think Sweet Kiss and Bark or something, and then Dawn manages to catch it after some damage, and immediately like goes into training, I guess, right?
What do you mean goes into training? Like they started training right away?
Yeah, because I remember she. Oh no! They go to sleep at night actually, and she
Yes.
like has Pachirisu like a plush next to her, which is
So
adorable.
that's what I thought was strange was like you have this Pokemon that you just caught and you're letting it sleep right next to you. So to me,
Yeah.
that's like, oh, okay. So maybe once you catch a Pokemon, it like
Hmm.
automatically obeys you, kind of like it does in the game. But like, does it also become your friend?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something like registered in its data that it has to like you, which we've seen that's not the case before. But I was just kind of confused by the mechanics of that, or if there was any reason for it. But the scene of them sleeping together was cute, but then it just, I think it allowed me to be caught off guard for what was going to happen the
Mm-hmm.
following day.
Yeah, that's a good point because you would think that with that amount of time together, she would have found out how Pachirisu's personality is so energetic, but it's a whole day basically until she gets to that realization. And she's had it like outside the ball and everything. So yeah, that's a good point I didn't think about. The theme of this episode to me is a lot of Dawn being self-conscious because it starts off with her kind of getting her hair together, and it shows that she's got like a big emphasis on how she looks and her image with that. And that kind of stresses her out later on when she's trying to train Pachirisu, and she can't get it to obey her as she tries to like return it to its ball. So she gets her other two Pokemon, Baniri and Piplup, to try and help her with that. And throughout the thing, which goes off the walls, her hair also gets shocked, and she's just freaking out about having a bad hair day.
Yes.
I think that was stronger and subtle storytelling than I would have thought the first time that I saw this episode.
Just how she was more focused like on her beauty and the maybe the whole aspect of being a what's it called? The
A
contest person,
coordinator?
coordinator. I want to keep saying conductor, but that's a trainer.
That's
uh,
a
so
mhm.
so yeah, so she's focused on the whole package of being the coordinator and not necessarily like what's right in front of her at that time.
Yeah, because throughout the whole thing, I'm surprised that Brock didn't point this out, but I felt like someone should have realized that Pachirisu's just playing. Like, it's not behaving like this because it dislikes Dawn. It's not trying to be rebellious. It's just its nature to kind of act the way it does. And Dawn doesn't really see that from what I can tell. Like, she's more focused on the end result rather than kind of focusing on what's there and what's the reality of this Pachirisu being a hyperactive electric squirrel that kind of just wants to play.
Yeah, I think some of that is maybe her ignoring or not understanding its
Hmm.
personality, where that's been a big theme so far that I've seen in the season 10 is they
Hmm.
bring up that all these different Pokemon have all
Yeah.
these different personalities, that no two Pokemon are going to have the same personality. And at one point, someone said there's more personalities than there are Pokemon. And so I don't know if they know how much Pokemon there are later on, but
Yeah, that's
I like to think
true.
there's about 1,000 personalities plus.
Probably. Probably. I mean, the thing that I kind of account all this to is that she has Piplup and she's Baniri. And Baniri was probably easier to tame given that it already had a crush on Pikachu. So there was some motivation for it to join the party. While Pachirisu is a wild child. Like she just found this thing in the middle of the field apparently, even though it's a squirrel and I would assume it's like in the tree somewhere, and decided to catch it there. So I think maybe as a new trainer, this is just showing her experience with various personalities, as you said, and like various types of Pokemon also.
Yeah, because Pikachu is pretty wild in the beginning too. So
Mm-hmm.
electric types, maybe they're just difficult to train, or maybe you
Yeah,
just have to have more patience with them because they have so much energy.
totally. Yeah, I think that's where it comes down to here because it's the first electric type that I think anyone other than Ash has had in their party since the anime started. So I wonder if that was kind of the big deal of this. It's like, oh look, we got the next Pikachu clone here with Pachirisu. But in the end, this leads to a whole lot of shenanigans with chasing Pachirisu around and music that I think is way too dramatic for a scene that's supposed to come off as comedic. But it ends with everyone being exhausted. Pachirisu also fainting from using its discharge. I guess it just like it was so exhausted after all that playing. And Dawn goes to pick up the Pachirisu and is like, "Oh, you're like, stop it! You're pretending to be knocked out." Which to me was another point to she doesn't get this Pokemon yet, and she's still not understanding that this Pokemon is not doing this out of like maliciousness.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think Brock says something in a little bit that kind of
Hmm.
clears that up.
What does he say? Do you remember?
Um, I don't know the exact wording of it, but I don't know if you wanted to just jump into this part already. But after she releases the Pachirisu,
Mm-hmm.
Brock says something about how you guys haven't had enough time to figure each other out, type of
Yes.
deal. Like, yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
you're calling it quits like too soon.
Right.
And I think that that goes back to what you were saying is she's just doesn't have that experience yet, but that doesn't mean that she can't in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably the wisest thing to get from that. Is like her realizing like she just needs to take her time with this. Like even when she's releasing Pachirisu, Pachirisu's like super um cozy around her, but she doesn't understand. And if she just had more time, like Brock says, she probably would have gotten more of an attachment and understanding of Pachirisu. But right after that is when we cut to Team Rocket actually trying to catch Pachirisu. Jesse specifically immediately being interested in it, but it does not like Jesse enough to get stuck in the Pokeball and runs away from them and hits back the Pokeball in their face. So I thought that was pretty satisfying seeing this super adorable Pokemon kind of reject Team Rocket. And after that pep talk that Brock and Ash gave Dawn, that motivates her to go back and catch the Pachirisu again. And yeah, this is where we kind of get them facing off. Um, after she actually, there's a note that she sees a cloud shaped like Pachirisu in the sky, which I thought was funny.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Um, but immediately they confront each other, and Dawn is already kind of saying, "Hey, that's my Pachirisu," but Jesse calls her out on it and says, "If it was your Pachirisu, why don't you call it back to your Pokeball?" Because she knows that because her ball was able to like open up when it touched Pachirisu, that's still wild. That technically doesn't belong to anyone. So I thought that was a kind of cool moment where Jesse's technically right. Like they're not stealing this from anyone because Don released it. What did you think
Yeah,
about that kind of?
it was a very weird interaction there
Mhm.
because it's like you are used to them always stealing a Pokemon, but this time it was like, well, technically it's fair game.
Yeah, and this immediately does not last because they suggest to kind of have a competition to see who Patricia likes more, and Jesse's like, "All right, give me all the food. I'm gonna bait this Pachirisu into coming with us." Um, but that doesn't seem to work as it just goes over, shocks them, and then goes over back to Dawn. And Dawn's like, "Oh, okay, you do like me." And Team Rocket, Jesse specifically, is not happy about this, so they get into their balloon, and try to grab Pachirisu with their mechanical hand. And Pachirisu dodges. I think this is the first time we see that, actually, where a Pokemon that Team Rocket tries to catch actually gets out of the way of the hand, which I was like, finally, like someone's like on their feet enough to dodge that.
Like, and this Pokemon's only just met Team Rocket
Mm-hmm.
compared to all the other Pokemon who've gotten grabbed like 5 times.
Yeah, everyone else is just like
Like,
a
are you
sitting
not
duck.
gonna learn?
Yeah, Patrice is a quick learner, clearly. Oh yeah, so they start to try to grab the Pachirisu, but they use like a hole in their mechanical hand to shoot a sticky substance to keep everyone stuck to the ground so they can't chase or use or like come after the Pokemon. And this ends up in Dawn being immobilized around this Pachirisu, who also gets stuck. So Team Rocket comes down and uses like a cleaning solution to dissolve the like substance around the Pokemon. And Dawn is just heartbroken. She's like, "No, Patrice, stay with me." But she goes along with them, and they even like take off in the balloon.
When they got stuck in the gum-like substance,
Hmm.
I love how Piplup was upside down. Like its head was
Oh,
stuck in the
really?
gum, and and its feet were like up in the air. It's like, what? How did you? It was really cute. It was like, how did you even end up like that?
See, I'm
Uh,
thinking because Piplup is like shown to kind of fly in this episode, it probably like got hit in the head and just like fell forward.
yeah, so I thought that was really funny. But yeah, after they released the Pachirisu from the sticky substance, it jumped up on Jesse's shoulder and just
Hmm.
kind of went with them. And honestly, it looked happy. So I was like, maybe, maybe this is the end of Pachirisu and being Don's Pokemon. I was like, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I guess I could see it. And if Pachirisu's happy, then I mean, I can't be mad about it.
Right? It's like, yeah, technically they're not playing super clean, but it's a wild Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want that Pokemon, you have to try harder. Use your own machine's back, Don.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, like send Starly out or Staravia. I don't think it's sucking gum yet or something. But this leads us to the heel turn of the very short-lived membership of Team Rocket, with Pachirisu using discharge to blow up the hot air balloon, and then running back with something in its mouth all the way, because this balloon like traveled for a few miles at this point. Um, but Pachirisu runs all the way back to Dawn and shows that it's carrying the dissolvent of the sticky substance in its mouth. So that's the long con that Pachirisu was pulling, is that it knows that Dawn and everyone else is stuck and they can't get out until they use that solvent. Which I thought was kind of cute. It was like, oh, Pachirisu's like super hyperactive and super energetic, but it's also smart. It realizes that it needs to trick others sometimes to get what it wants.
Yeah, Pachirisu is definitely smarter than me because I was thinking while I was up in that balloon, what are you doing, Pachirisu? Like even as I was doing the discharge, I'm like, why did you go through all this hassle? Were you just trolling Team Rocket at this point? And then it comes back
Mm.
with like this potion that dissolves the sticky substance, and it's like, oh, I guess that makes sense. You're way smarter
Yeah.
than me.
It
I
was it
didn't
was
even think of that.
it was playing 4D chess with all of us apparently. Yeah. I was like, "Oh, that's neat." It kind of shows that not everyone in this show is like front facing with their problems. Sometimes they'll go around if they need to get a solution, which they did in this case. Um, and then this this really brings closure to Dawn, because she's like, "Oh, you do like me. Like you went through all that trouble, and even though I didn't really understand you, you understood what was happening in order to like save all of us." Actually, which I thought was a cute way to kind of show Pachirisu and Dawn growing as a trainer.
Yeah, I think it was a good ending. It was a good way to close the episode of how wild it was and Don's insecurities of being potentially Pachirisu's trainer. I
Hmm.
think I think it just showed Don that there's more to Pokemon than just catching them and then they're instantly going to be your friends and get
Right.
along, kind of like how it worked out with Baneri.
Yeah, she's really kind of learning how Pokemon are really unique in a lot of ways, and she just kind of has to learn how to interact with them a little differently because they're not all going to be the same experience. And she finds that out a lot throughout the season. Actually, I'm kind of realizing now that Pachirisu's kind of the beginning of that arc for her. So that'll be cool for you to find out as we keep going. But I believe this is also, if I'm checking here correctly, yeah. So as I was saying before about Pachirisu as an electric type, Dawn's capture of Pachirisu represents the first time a main character has caught an electric type Pokemon since Ash received Pikachu in the first episode.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty big.
And this is also the second episode where a character releases a Pokemon and then recatches it after Wings and Things, in which Zachary Evans releases and catches his Yanma, which is it literally just like a character of the week kind of thing. So I don't know why they're like putting that much emphasis in it, but it's also so that means that this is the first time a main character goes through that where they catch, release, and recatch a Pokemon. I th- I'm like I'm kind of amazed that that hasn't happened before.
The only thing somewhat similar to that would be when Ash is on the SSN and makes that
Right.
trade. I think he trades Butterfree, right?
Yes, he trades Butterfree for Raticate.
Eradicate. And then as the ship's like sinking, he's like, "No, this Eradicate sucks. I need my Butterfree back." That's like the
Yeah.
only thing that is kind of close to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that's the only thing that's even similar, and that was way back in season one also. But I don't know. I'm curious if I would want to see more of this, or just seeing a case like this once is enough for me. Because I feel like if they did this too often, it would be kind of oversaturating and lose the impact that this had. So I might be more on the side like, oh, this is kind of cool to see in the anime depicted. Um, but I wouldn't necessarily be super like, oh my gosh, excited that they're doing it again in some future instance.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. Just trying to relate it to a video game experience. You don't really have the opportunity to recatch your Pokemon once you release it.
Hmm.
But I think this adds more impact to the anime, like
Right.
showing these Pokemon are real and they're still out there versus in a game, it's like, oh, they're digital code. You release them and you can catch 20 more pretty easily.
Yeah. When you release it, it's just gone forever, but you can find like a ton of unique copies of it in just in the wild, but never the same one, unfortunately. I How would you feel about being able to catch Pokemon that other people have had and released before?
Ooh, interesting. Would they have their trainer ID? Like maybe maybe
Yes.
they had original trainer and then they would have like new trainer or something like that. So
Yeah,
they would
that's
have
what I'm
your
thinking.
ID and their ID. That would be cool. I would like that, especially with rejects.
Mm-hmm. Because that's the closest thing that we get is probably like people wonder trading away Pokemon that they aren't going to use because they breeded a different version of it that's better.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun mechanic if there was like a special online daycare where if you didn't want
Mm.
the reject or whatever you want to call it at the time, if you don't want that Pokemon and you release it there, then people on your friends list can encounter them and recatch them. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, it would be a nice way of going around the idea of like, oh, people trading something just as a favor and then like getting some other thing that they release anyway because they don't really want it. They're just kind of giving it to someone. There isn't like a one way avenue to give someone else a Pokemon. And this would be a neat part of the world building. Like I would imagine you're in the wild area near the daycare, and that's where you're like told, "Oh yeah, we had someone like release this Pokemon a while ago, so it's like hanging out around here if you want to go find it or something."
Oh, like it could be a rare spawn or something like that.
Yeah, like a daily kind of migration thing that they do in the Sinnoh games and like future games where like, oh, there's a swarm of these Pokemon spawning around here for some reason. And then you go to that route and then the next day it resets.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, because you could also like get experience boost from it and make it easier to breed your own Pokemon even. Because usually I think if it's with a traded Pokemon, they're more likely to breed. So yeah, a lot of cool concepts there that I think could pay off in future generations and wouldn't be against seeing for sure.
Well, now I expect that in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and if it's not in it, then we riot.
Oh, jeez.
You better be listening, Game Freak.
Make ball capsules cool again. And I'll make that hashtag at some point. Okay, but wrapping this up, what would you rate Diamond and Pearl episode 19? Twice smitten, one shy.
That's tough because I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of story that ended up happening, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like for the lack of like story advancement, a lot still kind of happened in its own personal way. I don't know. So I'd say it's probably like a 7.5. Like
Okay.
I'd rewatch it.
Yeah, that's I think the struggle with this episode, as our listeners might have caught on, is that there's both a lot yet nothing really substantial happening in this episode. And it's definitely one that I think is more for entertainment value if you're just catching it on TV or enjoying it with someone else. But it's hard to recommend as something for someone to just watch as recommended reading for this season. So I would probably end up giving it a 6 out of 10 because there's a lot of cute high points here, but I think it could have been communicated clearer where Dawn's relationship is with Pachirisu and maybe give some more context to them trading and rather than like sleeping with this Pachirisu overnight and then the next day finding out that they have communication issues, which I thought was kind of a weird setup. Um, yeah, so there's just things here that are left to be desired that I think could boost up this episode a lot more. Yeah, any final thoughts on Pachirisu?
I really do like Pachirisu. I liked its
Mm-hmm.
character in the episode. I think the design is really cute. I think the colors go well together. The only thing that I'm not a fan about Pachirisu is that it doesn't evolve. It's like
You want it to evolve?
I struggle with like my favorite Pokemon are like cute Pokemon. I like them better than these awesome end game Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Such as like Cyndaquil or Jinx or
You said cute, but then you mentioned
yeah,
Jinx.
yeah, cute Pokemon.
But
So
there's Smoochum!
well, yeah, Smoochum too. Smoochum's a cutie.
Okay, okay.
So I like cute Pokemon better than these awesome
Tough.
Charizard type Pokemon. Um, and so for that, I really like Pachirisu, but using it for a game playthrough, I
Mm-hmm.
think I would probably mid game get rid of it or replace it with something because it just doesn't have that next level.
Right.
It doesn't evolve. So that's like my only downside with it. But it's weird because if it did evolve, I'd probably still want to keep it as a Pachirisu, but I would only evolve it for the power.
Yeah, same. I think I definitely put it on the team, but going through the game, most people probably have a Shinx already by this point, and Shinx has a 3-stage evolution, which means that it grows a lot more in stats versus Pachirisu. So by the end, I typically kind of leave it behind for the Shinx. But who knows? Maybe just for fun, I'll keep a Pachirisu in my party for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But that is basically it for episode 19 of Diamond and Pearl. So let's move on to episode 20 called Mutiny in the Bounty. And the blurb reads, on the way to Floraroma town, our heroes see a Salamence riding woman steal a Gardevoir from a trainer named Melody. Ash and Pikachu come to the rescue, but the mystery woman sends out a Drapion and swipes Pikachu. Team Rocket refuses to be outdone by another Pokemon thief and make their big entrance. Except, the woman steals Meowth as well before making her getaway. So this is an action-packed first 5 minutes of the episode. There's a cold open again with 3 fairly disconnected parts of the episode, which I was not a fan of. But I would have liked it if they had just shown the first segment, which was Ash trying to battle this new character, and then the new character doing something mysterious to Pikachu.
Okay, yeah, I think that would have been good. That would have been a good like cliffhanger to be like, I need to see what happens in this episode.
Yeah, like what's going on here? But then they add like 2 other things that I was like, oh, that kind of weakens it overall. But yeah, this episode begins fairly unassumingly with Dawn, Brock, and Ash just strolling up to this house, which has a bunch of beautiful flowers in front of it, and then they see this lady and her Gardevoir outside watering the flowers. But then a woman on her Salamence flies overhead, and Dawn scans it with the Pokedex before it lands, and she sends out an area dose, just string shot this character called Melody onto the tree, and immediately immobilize her. And I was like, oh, whoa, this is getting serious. Usually Brock would have tried to harass her first.
Yeah, they totally left that part out.
Yeah, and it's not the first time. It actually happens later on where I'm like, oh wow, they didn't even do this. That's how you know it's a serious episode. We see the woman tell her Gardevoir to teleport away, which it does. But then this character, which I won't say the name yet because it's a mystery at this point, actually, uh, scans using these high-tech goggles to predict where Gardevoir is going to reappear. And Gardevoir teleports and just reappears about 15 feet away from where it was. So I don't know what the strategy was here, but she's able to predict where it reappears and then uses a strange machine on her arm to shoot a ray that petrifies the Gardevoir. Very like Mewtwo movie-esque, except it's kind of bronze coloring.
To me, it kind of looked like a chocolate Pokemon statue. So, like, you could, for instance, Pikachu later on, you could just break the ear off and eat it.
Oh no!
Like those chocolate bunnies and stuff for Easter.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it looked like for me.
I might have seen that if it were like a little darker. But oh gee, were you hungry watching this episode?
Maybe a little bit.
Okay,
but no, I think the beginning of this episode was fantastic. So I haven't watched much of the other animes before this, besides like season 1. But just starting off this episode with 2 Pokemon that are like end game Pokemon was exciting. It was like a Salamence in the anime. Whoa, that's awesome! Like, and it's not like the final like tournament at the end of the season. This is great, and then a Gardevoir as well, which I don't know. I think a part of me was like, Come on, Gardevoir, you can take that Salamence. You
Right?
got this.
I was like, what? Gardevoir can do more than just teleport away. And I was also like, Gardevoir. Well, it doesn't have fairy typing in this gen, to be fair.
Oh, that is true. That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, that's
Oh,
you
okay.
could take care of this. Yeah. Maybe not then. Yeah, teleport away.
It should have at least been sort of smart enough to not teleport this close. Like I was like, "What are you doing? What's the strat here?" Maybe it was
But
going to like try and save its trainer or
yeah, the
something.
Gardevoir at least had to keep an eye on the trainer.
Maybe,
So
yeah.
I don't blame it for that.
But this does end up in Gardevoir being captured, turned to stone, basically, and a nearby like high tech truck, which kind of looks cool, uh, sending out these like weird circular platform things like pedestals that fly over to the Gardevoir and scoop it up to put it inside a capsule basically, and then carry it back over to the truck, which is like the first time I've seen anything like this in the anime.
Yeah, it was very futuristic, which I thought was interesting compared to like Team Rocket, where you get a lot of robots and stuff like them,
Nets.
but it looks maybe Power Rangers like. I don't know.
Right.
uh, but
This is
this
high
was
tech.
like, yeah, this was next level. Was not the same,
Which
and it
makes me
was very obvious.
question, right? And that makes me question, like, why is no one else using this technology? But they don't really address that.
Got to be a rich
So
bounty hunter.
I guess I mean, you would think Team Rocket as a like organization, not like our squad of Jesse, James, and Meowth, might be able to afford this, but who knows?
Well, that's the thing, is they probably do have it somewhere, but our point of view always follows Jesse and James. There's no way
Mhm.
Giovanni's giving them good technology. They
That's
get the
fair.
scraps.
He's saving it for Butch and Cassidy, clearly. Um, so they run off with this Gardevoir. Dawn and Brock help Melody like get out of her webbing apparently. So Ash decides to chase after the truck. The lady on the settlement starts flying away, and Ash Ash like sees that they had to take the road, so he takes a shortcut by like running down this cliff basically, and meeting them in the middle of the road where Salamence also catches up to him and tries to battle Ash. Because Ash tries to stop the truck with a thunderbolt. That's what happens. And then the lady on the drag on the on the Salamence lands is like, oh, that's an impressive thunderbolt. Show me what other moves your Pokemon has. And Ash is like, all right, Volt Tackle as out after she brings out her Drapion, which is the first time we see it. So Ash, of course, obligatory Pokedex scans it, and then tries to hit it with a Volt Tackle, only for it to dodge and stop closer to where the lady on the Salamence is. And she's like, "Oh wow, that's impressive," and she gives me slight Paul vibes actually from seeing her reaction to Volt Tackle and Thunderbolt. Did you see that at all?
I did, as you were talking about it just now, but
Okay.
not when I watched it. When you brought up the Volt Tackle, I was like, oh yeah,
Someone
Ash
else did
did
that
have
before.
him. Yeah, I was like, Ash did have him use the Volt Tackle. Oh yeah, I guess Volt Tackle's a pretty cool move to see on a Pikachu, because it catches
Yeah.
everyone's eye.
Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, the Volt Tackle Pikachu. Now we're talking." um and this is not to Ash's favor though, because she pulls out her Ariados and gets Ash stuck to the tree, and then uses her like not it's basically like if a human were
Her
wearing a
chocolate gun.
no, I was gonna say like the Mega Man Buster gun, but it shoots a petrifying ray that hits Pikachu, and then the truck sends out another one of its pedestal thingies to capture it and take it away. and they're gone basically until Dawn and Brock catch up with the girl named Melody, who I don't think we ever learn her name. I guess I don't know how they know it, but um, of course, to get Ash free, they use Pachirisu's spark attack out of all things, which I thought was kind of odd. I was assuming they might use like Piplup's peck or something.
Yeah, you could use. Well, I guess Ash's Pokemon are probably stuck behind the webbing, but I was gonna say you could use like Aerial Ace. You could use Razor Leaf.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, like if Ash's Pokemon are mobilized, like the third best option would be Peck, but I guess they just want to show off Pachirisu because it just got added to the party.
That's fair. I just would have liked to see Ash get shocked from that.
Yeah,
I think that would have been a little bit of good comic relief in the
Right.
midst of this real serious situation.
Yeah, like just give me something to laugh at. But then again, as they go further on, the truck gets caught in some smoke, and they're like, "What's happening?" And Team Rocket pops out of nowhere with their motto, which reveals that Meowth can talk. And the lady on the Salamence is like, "Oh, whoa, that's a talking Meowth. That's really rare." and Meowth plays into that, of course, being a fan of the compliments, but is not a fan of her next thought, which is to petrify the Meowth and capture it, and immobilizes Team Rocket with another Ariados string shot and gets them wrapped up around a rock. Stealing a third Pokemon in like the last 5 minutes. So the Gardevoir, the Pikachu, and now Meowth are all in her possession as she flies away.
Very efficient.
Right? This is like the most the most effective Pokemon robbery I've seen at this point.
Yeah, she definitely has time management on her resume.
She sees an opportunity, goes for it, and asks questions later.
Real go-getter. Yeah, for sure.
By the time our heroes catch up to her at the end of the road, like it's unclear what happens here, but they get to the end of the road as far as we can see, though it should keep going because they're not like on the ground level. But then a huge ship appears out of nowhere, and you see them board onto there and fly away, and then the ship cloaks itself in a way that makes it invisible to the naked eye. So they're gone. And Officer Jenny shows up and is like, "Hey, I heard what's going on. That person is named Hunter J," and she shows like a wanted picture of her. But yeah, I'm here to help. A little too late, but I'm here. And again, another moment where Brock would usually harass someone and does not.
Yeah, this is the Brock that I like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Respecting people's boundaries, Brock.
Yeah, who knew? Like, I wish you acted like this all the time. So, from here, we cut to inside the ship where we see all the stolen Pokemon are being kept in a room. This guy comes out, one of her like underlings, with a camera to show that Meowth can talk because they can actually like adjust the level of stasis that the Pokemon are in by just pulling down a lever, kind of like a dim light bulb, basically. Is that what it's called? Like a dimmer bulb?
Yeah,
something?
dimmer switch. Yeah.
Dimmer switch. Yeah, that's what they use to kind of control each of the Pokemon. And they pull it down just far enough to show Meowth's head so he can talk, and so that they can record and show that Meowth is a talking Meowth, which I think is smart. To show, like, oh, this is a new thing that we'll add to our catalog, he says specifically. And at this point is when Officer Jenny is explaining to our heroes who Hunter J is and how she steals Pokemon with like a unique set of technology. And there's a moment where you see her at a deal and she's given like a briefcase of coin, looks like. And I've never seen money in the Pokemon world depicted like this. So I was like, huh, is that like actual currency or is that like some kind of maybe rare metal or something?
Gold pieces or like bottle caps.
Exclusive bottle
Yeah,
caps.
golden bottle caps.
Apparently. They look kind of like silver or platinum, so that's why I was like, I don't know what this is. But then you see a really heart-wrenching moment because they show a Teddy Ursa in the background that's in stasis. They take it down using the dimmer switch, and it just starts like pounding on the glass and crying, so they put it back in stasis, but you see the tears come out, and I was like, no! My Teddy
I
Ursa!
forgot about this until you just said that, because the whole episode, there's a lot going on,
Mm-hmm.
but that was so sad. Like, and it just refroze it, like crying, with this horrible expression on its face. Oh, I felt so bad.
No! Why did you do this? I'm so now and like if that's a real flashback, that means that Teddy Ursa got sold off somewhere and we're never gonna see it again. So it's just too bad to think about. The happiest headcanon I have about it is that at the end of the third Pokemon movie, the Entei movie, you see that the girl in that movie gets given a real Teddy Ursa. So my headcanon is that the dad or someone bought it for her and like it didn't get sold off into some horrible scenario.
My headcanon is that that was just an example
Okay.
of the way that Officer Jenny would like explain it, because I feel like she says later on that they don't really have any leads. No one knows like where they go,
Mm-hmm.
and so they don't really know a whole lot about her tech. So I think I was just kind of hoping that that was just an
Imaginary.
explanation. Yes, this is probably what's happening.
Okay. Okay. I can live with that also.
Yeah, that's a good way
That relieves my
to not
soul a
stay up
little
all night.
bit.
Yeah.
But at this point, they're like, how can we figure out where she's going? Because as you mentioned, Jenny's like, we have no intel. Like, we're useless at this point. But Melody's like, excuse me, I have a Pokemon that could help, and brings out Curlia. And I was like, why didn't you do this earlier? Um, but Curlia, canonically, as Dawn finds out from the Pokedex, is able to use the horns on its head to detect emotions and kind of interpret them, um, which isn't really what happens here, but it does manage to use what I assume is future sight to get an idea of where Jenny or where Hunter J is going to strike next, and you see like a water wheel place. And her landing there with Salamence. And Curlia shares this image with everyone around her using its telepathic abilities. And then it just passes out for some reason. So I guess it's just so like, oh yeah, Curlia's not gonna do anything else the rest of this episode. But it helped once, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't think about it being future sight. I think
Oh, okay.
I think that's a really good take from that. But when they're going through the Pokédex, it says something about how it like reads emotions, but it also can like temporarily see the future or something.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it said in the anime at least. And so I wasn't thinking about future sight. I was just thinking about the Dex entry and how that applied. And I started thinking about the games where there's a lot of creepy or weird or just over exaggerated Dex entries that seem
Hmm.
impossible, like Magikarp jumping over mountains.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was kind of surprising to me to see something in the anime use the Dex entry and then actually like have it apply.
Yeah, that was pretty satisfying, I would say. I think the execution could be a little bit better, but it was nice to kind of actually instantaneously use this new information to kind of progress the plot, and just use Pokemon in a way that like if you're trying to be smart, you would use it in this way. So cool payoff there, though it does kind of beg to question why she has all these Pokemon in the first place, because we learn absolutely nothing about this character who has the Gardevoir and the Kirlia.
I would assume Gardevoir could look into the future as well, since
Mhm.
it's the evolution. Did they not see this coming?
Apparently not.
Maybe
um,
maybe it just causes Pokemon to pass out, and so they only use it in dire situations. I don't know.
I guess, yeah. That was apparently the cost of using that ability, but it's enough for Officer Jenny to show them where to go next as she brings along her Arcanine, and they all, I guess, run over there because she has like a motorcycle, but it only has a one seat in it, I guess, so no one's riding with her. But they get there too late, in my canon, because of that, because there's like nowhere for them to ride, and they're too late because they've captured an Absol and they're taking it out. But Ash jumps down, confronts Jay, and is like, "I want my Pokemon back." And Salamence uses Hyper Beam. Jenny counters with Arcanine's Flamethrower, and in that confusion, Ash goes over to the truck and sneaks under it to hold on to the bottom of the truck. And Meowth, being kidnapped as well, inspires Jesse and James to do the same thing as they both climb under the truck. And as it dries off, Dawn and Brock try to like block the road, but it just leaps up into the air where you can see a cool shot, actually. Not very realistic, but a cool shot of Ash, Jesse, and James holding on to the bottom of this cargo truck.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm not sure if you watched that. You probably have.
Yeah, I
Um,
was gonna say it reminded me of something, but I can't remember what it was.
so like when Aang's going down with Boomy, like down those slides in Omashu, uh
Mm-hmm.
they they're like up in the air. Actually, I think it was with Katara and Sokka.
Oh, okay.
Um, but it was in Omashu, the same episode with Boomy, and they like go flying in those little mail carts, and then they just kind of like it's like stops, and then they make eye contact with somebody. I think it was maybe the cabbage guy, and then they just keep going and they blow through his cabbages. And it's just like this quick, like
Mm-hmm.
this crazy scene happening, and
It
then
slows
it
down, yeah.
stops, and then like you could tell like they both see each other and get the severity of the situation, and then it just keeps going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but well, what's weird is that later in the moments of Hunter J like vanishing again, Brock says that to everyone else there, and Dawn's also surprised. So I'm like, wait, Dawn, did you not see that? What? He tells them like, oh yeah, Ash is under that truck, and they're like, what? And Dawn apparently did not make that connection. Um, Even though she should. But anyway, we cut to the ship where the truck's aborted, and it seems like our trio has waited for everyone to leave, and climbs out of the garage hangar and says like, "All right, we're gonna split up and go and find Pikachu and Meowth." Which is kind of cool. That immediately they're like, "Oh, truce! We know what we're doing here. Let's all go our separate ways and help out." Um, Ash brings out his Apom to help, so that means there's 4 people on the ship now looking for the stolen Pokemon. What do you think about that? Like quick thinking, kind of crisis mode truce that they have.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I feel like they've
Mhm.
done that in other situations too.
Right.
And I'm fine with that if they both have the same end goal. As long as there's no like betrayal at the end by Team Rocket,
Mhm.
then I'm cool with it.
Yeah, that's always kind of satisfying where like both sides stick through to the end together. Um, but here, Apom does manage to find the stolen Pokemon as Hunter J is interrogating the talking Meowth, and Meowth is trying to trick her into making him her like assistant because he can talk to Pokemon, and she's like, "No, I'm good." Which I was like, "Oh, okay." That shows she's not playing, I guess. But she does notice that the door is slightly ajar, and immediately tells her assistant, "Oh, we have intruders on board. Like, start searching." And I was like, "Oh wow, okay." Like you really put those two like things together.
Yeah, that was a quick connection, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know if that would have been my first thought, but I guess if I were in her situation, I would think that our technology and our plan is just so secure that there's no way
Mm.
that someone would be on board the ship and
Yeah.
be like, "Hey," I would at least maybe question someone like, "Hey, did you not close this door when you came in, you idiot?"
Mhm.
I don't
Right.
know.
I totally see that. I'm surprised that did not happen for sure. I mean, maybe in the translation that didn't come through, but that seems like the more natural thing to do rather than like, oh, the door's slightly open and that means there's someone on board. But it could also just be an indicator that she's not arrogant to the point of thinking that everything that they do is super 100% safe and um, has no flaws in it. But uh, Apom does end up finding Ash and tries leading him over to the area with Pikachu and Meowth. But he's immediately confronted by uh, her and by Hunter J and Drapion, and she's like, "Oh, she's kind of impressed that he made it on board." She admits slightly, but then tries to take out Apom and Turtwig, which he sends out. And they're not a match for this Drapion, unfortunately. Clearly, much higher level, is not phased by their attacks. And then Jesse and James barrel through, so they're surrounded at this point. Oh, and there's a cool little moment here where Hunter J's like, "Oh, those two aren't anything special. You can like get rid of them." And I was like, "Jeez!" Like she knows the drill, and Drapion's on board automatically. That when she like analyzes a Pokemon's worth and lets Drapion know, make sure that this thing gets hurt or doesn't because it's merchandise.
Yeah, to me that like makes me wonder how Pokemon get some of their personalities. Like, did she just
Mm-hmm.
find a Drapion that's just mean and uh you know pretty much murderous
Yeah.
out in the wild, and then they became friends, or did the Pokemon eventually like morph in their personality to grow more like the trainer?
Right. Was it nurture or nature first?
Yeah, definitely.
But during this moment, Apom Apom finds an air vent that's big enough for Ash to crawl through. So it takes off the lid and they dive right in, followed by Team Rocket. And then Turtwig jumps in last, which I thought was kind of a cute moment.
I
Um,
didn't. I don't know. I don't think I like that too much. There's no reason for Turtwig to go last, especially when Team Rocket was the ones who brought all the men in
yeah.
uniforms there. Like Ash needed to jump in there with his Pokemon, and then good luck, Team Rocket, after that. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, like logically you would think like maybe if Ash was last, it would make more sense if Turtwig was watching his back, but here it's kind of like, watching Team Rocket's back, or is it smart enough to realize, sure, Team Rocket's last, but if they get through Team Rocket, they're gonna get to Ash. Uh, is like the most optimistic way of viewing this moment.
I guess the way that like I'm viewing it is there was a potential that Turtwig got grabbed before it even jumps in the vent because it lets Team Rocket go in
Mm,
first.
yeah, that's true too. Yeah, but it works out for them somehow, and I guess even though Jay is literally in the doorway for the room that the other side of the vent leads to, she doesn't go in there. Like it's pretty obvious that this is a one-way vent. So I don't know why she just didn't like step back inside the room and wait for them to come out there. But Turtwig is able to blast away the goons on the Hunter J side with some razor leaves, which I think would just slice the faces of these people, especially at like this close range, but it just causes a explosion or something. But this brings Team Rocket and Ash into the capture room, or the prison, I guess, here, where Meowth instructs them to turn down the dimmer so they can free them. And Ash takes down Pikachu, Team Rocket takes down Meowth, and then Apom, for some reason, takes down Gardevoirs, but not the Absol that was just captured. So now it's just all of them trapped in this room. That immediately gets busted, I guess, by the goons. To be fair, they found them really quickly.
Yeah, I think I don't know. There was a part of this that did bother me a little bit. Like you said, how come she didn't just go back into that room? How come she didn't, like, at some point when she knew that there were intruders on board? How come she wasn't like, "Hey, make sure we have a bunch of people guarding
Mm-hmm.
these Pokemon we captured because we know that's their
Yeah.
end goal."
Like, where else
And
would they go?
they simply, yeah, exactly. And it's like, even if it was an elaborate, like, air duct system, you
Mm-hmm.
know where they're gonna eventually show up.
Right.
They have one thing in mind,
They're
but
clearly here for this one reason.
I guess the plot needs to come first before
Yeah.
logic.
And here this goon sends out a Golbat to try to take down everyone, and Ash battles back. It tries to subdue them with Supersonic, but then Pikachu is able to hit it with a Thunderbolt that actually not only hits the Golbat, but like hits the like generator or something that's on the wall behind them in the hallway, and immediately makes a hole in the ship. Which I was like, oh geez, this escalated quickly.
Yeah, I like how they actually added the physics, like, of an aircraft
Mm.
where everything was just getting sucked out.
Mm-hmm. You see like Turtwig and Apom starting to like get sucked out because they're smaller and way less, and Ash is able to return them to their bowls before they fall out of the plane, and then sends out Staravia actually explicitly saying, "Staravia, go tell Officer Jenny where we are," and it just flies out past the goons because everyone is just hanging on to something, like, so they can't stop it, which I thought was kind of cool. It's like, oh wow, we actually get to see all of Ash's Pokemon in this episode, and all of them are effective to some extent.
Yeah, and I like the way that it wasn't just Ash returning his Pokemon and,
Mm-hmm.
like, he wasn't affected by the air pressure. Like, he was like had his legs like crossed around like a table leg or
Yes.
something. And so I thought that was really cool.
Right. He was like,
Like the little details.
he was protecting himself and making sure like he's not just like trying to call back his Pokemon while not being in a safe situation himself. Or else there's like no point. He's gonna fall out too. But then Staravia flies out of the hole, and the ship is still invisible. But now because Staravia came out, I guess they're able to see it. Like, it's kind of unclear how that helps Officer Jenny and everyone else find them, but this is enough to help them spot where the invisible ship is falling. And then I think Jenny uses like these binoculars to kind of zoom in on the whole of the ship as it starts to become visible. And that's where she sees Ash just hanging onto the leg of the table, just like, there's Ash. um,
So that part happens a little bit after when
okay, yeah,
Hunter J is like,
in the
"Oh, we
control room or
have."
something.
Yeah, she's sitting in the like control room and she says something about how like Hangar 3 is under attack and we just need to drop it. And
Yes,
so
she tells.
once they like eject that, that's when Officer Jenny saw Ash.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
falling, right? Because like,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is the part from the cold open, basically, where you see that this part of the hangar is being removed from the ship. It's basically like them ejecting it from the rest of the flying vehicle, which is massive. It's like the size of a cruise ship or something. And Hunter J comes to that decision because in the control room, she's asking like one of her pilots what the situation is and if it's repairable. And she's like, "All right, we gotta get rid of it because that's going to cause us to fall from the sky and like lose everything." And the pilot tells her, "But sir, some of our men are on that." And like, did you not? Like, she's like, "I don't care. Get rid of it." Which is like, geez, they're really touching down how brutal she can be.
Oh, wait, did they call her sir?
Yes, they call her sir.
I feel like I heard that too, but I couldn't remember if maybe you had said that earlier on in the episode and that's what
No,
I was thinking about, or if that's actually what had happened.
I also
Very
did a double
weird.
take. Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for it if that's what how they want to identify. I don't know at this point, and just confused. Like,
Well, I was
let
gonna
us
ask you
know.
this, because I've heard either in like military situations or like I don't know if it's like war specifically, but usually sir is just the designation for anyone, regardless of gender, for people who are in command.
So, I'm not 100% sure on like how it used to be, but while I
Okay.
was in the military, it was sir or ma'am. So,
Oh,
in that
okay. So they would
situation,
say
you would have
ma'am.
used ma'am.
Interesting. Okay.
Unless maybe Hunter J is a female but is disguised as a male to the bounty hunters, which would allow her to maybe like be higher ranking if there's some sort of like sexist agenda or sexist viewpoint on women there. Like, I don't know. Maybe
I
her
I
crew
mean,
thinks it's a guy, and like Officer Jenny knows it's a girl. Like,
oh my
I don't know.
gosh.
There's
I
a lot of speculation that can be gone into that scene.
I think that's a cool theory, but I don't think that's what's
Kind
happening. But
of like
yeah, I
Mulan.
mean, yeah, we'll go from there. If you want to tell us in the comments what you think is the truth about 100J, feel free to let us know there. But what happens here is she just tells him, "All right, get out, get rid of this part of the ship," and you hear a dramatic voice saying, "How could you do this to us?" as she drops it from the rest of the ship. Um, and as they're falling, you see Melody kind of concentrate and mentally project its thoughts to Gardevoir and tells it, "Gardevoir, use teleport." And at the last second, it's able to teleport everyone on this particular part of the ship away and onto the ground as it just explodes in the middle of the forest. So you see all the goons, Ash, Pikachu, Team Rocket, and the Absol that's still in stasis just safely land, close to Officer Jenny and Melody.
So I liked most of the save.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't like is this is where, I felt like this episode was very like high pace. I feel like there
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of energy, so much futurism was going on. I thought maybe this is going to be the turn that Pokemon takes from stepping
Mm.
away from PG to PG-13 or R or some crazy rating
Hardcore.
where they're just going to leave the bad guys who just tried to steal the Gardevoir
Oh,
in the capsule or the little hangar as it's falling and teleport everyone else out and just let them crash with the hangar. I don't know
you
why you would
know,
I don't know why you would save the people that literally just kidnapped you from your trainer.
I'm glad you said that because I was also remembering now as I saw her teleport them away. Like you see them take turns. Like it isn't instantaneous that the Gardevoir just grabs everyone and leaves. It's like within like milliseconds you see it like choose people and they disappear. And there was a moment where I was like, everyone who's a hero or like main character is gone, but all
Yeah.
the other goons are still visible in this hangar. But then at the last second, it also grabs them. Um,
And it could have just been like, oops, I guess I didn't have enough time to grab everyone. Oh well.
Yeah, this Gardevoir was the one that teleported like 15 feet and made it a big deal. So I was like,
Yeah,
there's a what's it called? Plausible deniability there.
exactly. But unfortunately, it kept going that PG route. It saved
Yeah.
everyone.
And Jenny Jenny
Lassos them up.
lassos them. Like of all ways to arrest them, she just throws a lasso around this group of people and is like, "You're under arrest." Um, but then everyone's reunited. They like free the Absol, I guess. Um, but Hunter J escapes and is talking to their pilot and says, "All right, we have to make a new course now to go get a Gardevoir and an Absol." Which kind of answers a question that I had at the beginning, which is, does she pre-select these targets as like specific ones that her clients want to have captured, or is it just her looking across all her options and seeing like, all right, what's the closest or easiest thing to capture?
So I think Officer Jenny kind of answered that earlier on,
Oh, okay.
talking about how, at least in her speculation, that they had buyers and
Hmm.
targets, but they also will grab Pokemon that they think will bring in a hefty amount of
Profit.
money. Yeah. So like the Pikachu with Volt Tackle and the Talking Meowth were bonuses that they're like, oh, okay, we can clearly make money for this, even though
Hmm.
it's not on our list of what we need. But yeah, they said like we need to get a new Gardevoir and a new Absol for the buyer.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, interesting. So I'm wondering, I don't
Hmm.
know if you're already into speculation questions or not,
Sure.
but here we are. I'm wondering like, do we get to find out more about Hunter J? Do we get to see them in later in the season? I would assume so because it was such a big episode to me.
Hmm.
Also, do we get to find out who the buyer was? Do we get to see
Mm.
like that conflict? Are the buyers going to be brought to justice? Because a lot of times in
Yeah.
situations like this, it's just like the bounty hunters, it's the mercenaries that are um, eventually brought to justice. But I like to see the people that are funding those mercenaries and bounty hunters be put to justice as well.
Right. Like the root cause of what's bringing this whole business into existence.
Exactly.
Well, I do have answers for you, but I don't want to spoil it too much. So I would say stick around and find out. And that's also what I would recommend to anyone else who's listening to Sights on Sinnoh if you've been watching along with us, which you can do yourself by going to watch.pokemon.com, Pokemon's official Pokemon's official TV channel, I guess, for like all the anime that it puts up and rotates through. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode, which was episode 20, Mutiny in the Bounty. And yeah, my final thoughts on it are it wasn't as good as I remembered it, but still had a really exciting general plot to it and establishment of a new character, which I enjoyed, and mixed up the tone in a really refreshing way for Pokemon. So I would probably have to give this a 7.5 out of 10.
That's it. Oh
I
man.
I'm doing that because I know what comes later.
Well, then maybe what happens later is I'm going to start giving things like a 13 out of 10,
Oh
14 out of 10,
yeah.
because I'm going to give this one a solid 9 out of 10. It was exciting to see.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it was really exciting for me to see like futurism in the Pokemon world. It
Yeah.
was it was a nice fresh take on what a Pokemon thief could actually do versus
Mhm.
Team Rocket that, ends up screwing up big time every time.
Yeah, like someone who's effective at their job, is an adult, and is has actually succeeded. Um,
Yes.
I think what knocks it down a bit more for me is because the dialogue in certain places does feel off. Um, like even explicitly in the first minute when they're going up to free the the character Melody who's tied to the tree. Ash says, "Are you all right?" But his character is facing Hunter J, and I'm like, "What?" Like that just kind of distracted me a little bit, and that's super minor. But just throughout that first sequence, I felt like the interactions weren't as strong as they could be. Um, it was maybe a little too choreographed. But if that were otherwise, it's still a really good episode. But if it had small fixes, those small fixes, it would definitely be stronger for me.
That's fair. I've also only watched it once, and you've probably seen it 4 or 5 times, so you could be nitpicky with it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I've seen this maybe 3 times. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was really excited to hear your thoughts on this, and I'm glad that we got something new that's very much an element of Diamond and Pearl introduced here that you got to enjoy.
Yeah, I was a little bummed that I wasn't on the podcast for the first gym,
Mm.
the battles with Paul and Ash there, but this episode 20 definitely made up for it. 19 was fun too, but 20 definitely made up for it. So I won't hold it against you.
I'm glad I got the mercy ending here. But yeah, this was a great episode. 486th episode of the Pokemon anime. For those of you keeping track at home, trying to see if there's any interesting trivia on there. One point, I guess, that comes across is that Jesse's the Viper says its name at the end of Team Rocket's motto, along with Wobbuffet and Mime Jr. The episode's English dub title is a reference to the mutiny that took place on the British Royal Navy ship HMS Bounty. According to the majority of accounts, the sailors mutinied because they were attracted to the idyllic life of the Pacific Islands of Tahiti and Pitcairn. I don't know how to say that place, actually. As well as the alleged cruelty of their commanding officer, William Bligh. Since then, several books and films have been made based on the event. So,
Well,
interesting
I
trivia
don't
there.
blame those guys. I'd like to be in Tahiti right now.
Have you been to either of those places?
No, I didn't have any idea what that second one was, but I've
Yeah.
definitely heard of Tahiti. I'll retire there one day, maybe.
So it looks like the other place is Pitcairn, Pitcairn Islands, is a group of 4 volcanic islands in the southern Pacific Ocean that form the sole British overseas territories in the Pacific Ocean. All right, well, all right, Pokemon teaching me something new every day, I guess.
Yeah, there's your education.
Yes, exactly. Don't say I never did anything for you. But yeah, this has been it for Sights on Sinnoh, episode 11. I'm starting to lose track here. But thank you, Brady, so much for being here. I am happy that you got this introduction and you got a capture with a new Pokemon and B, a new villain in this episode.
Yeah, it was very exciting. I'm looking forward to see how Pachirisu and Dawn work together in the future.
Mhm.
Seeing how Dawn can overcome maybe her insecurities as a trainer and also the understanding of Pachirisu's excitement.
Yes.
And also looking forward to see how Hunter J shows back up and how our heroes can deal with her then.
Yeah, definitely. And as always, if you want to come along with us on this journey through Sinnoh, feel free to go through our channel and just see all the episodes that we have up. We upload weekly on Saturdays. Maybe changing that if we haven't changed it already by the time this episode's out. But Brady, if people want to find you and learn more about you, what are some other stuff that you do on the internet?
I'm on Twitch, mostly chatting in people's streams, but on Thursdays I am in my own stream. It's Cymbacoil, Cymbacoil, and you can also find me on Twitter with the same name, Cymbacoil.
Perfect. Yeah, and you can find those links in the description below. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. Thanks to everyone who listened. It has been great. And we'll catch you next week here on Sights on Cinema.
Bye.
Peace out.